I wish I'd been a girlie, just like my dear papa.
Hello and welcome to Unrelenting, episode number 34 for July 8th, 2022. I am Darren O'Neill, and I'm coming to you live from a bunker deep in the heart of Middle America and across this big virtual desk. Oh, Sir Gene hiding somewhere in, is it Kyiv today, Moscow, Austin? It's hard to tell. You are constantly on the move, my friend.
I'm right here in Austin. What are you talking about?
Constantly on the move. I mean, maybe it's just virtually on the move. Somebody called this show the Star Citizen Shill Show the other day.
They're not wrong.
Yeah, they're not wrong. No.
Speaking of Star Citizen, as a public service announcement, Free Play Week is on right now, which means anybody can sign up using the link in SirGeneSpeaks.com podcast and be able to play for free for a week and have a bunch of ships and no requirement of spending money at all.
I was surprised. I was doing a couple of eBay searches just looking for...
there's a lot of Star Citizen shit on there.
A ton of Star Citizen stuff. It's crazy. All this virtual goods. Then again, people buy crypto and NFTs. So.
Yeah, it's basically pre-NFT NFTs.
Right.
They're not on the blockchain, but they effectively are the same thing.
People will pay real money for fake goods.
It's crazy, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah. But if it provides you a level of entertainment, is it really fake though?
Not if you get entertainment out of it, then no, I will agree with that. If you get something,
and some people even make money on it.
You know, there's a lot of people that just say that about going to Vegas, you know, or gambling. And I'm in that category because I don't gamble a lot, but I've been to Vegas a couple of times. And when I'm there, I will gamble. And it's like, I know I'm going to lose.
Well, Vegas is more about knowing when to stop.
Yeah. Before you can't afford the plane ticket home.
And most people stop too late.
Well, because
you should not have a stop loss. You should have a stop win.
Yeah. Everybody always thinks, oh, I'm just one spin away from the next big haul.
Yeah. I remember when I was in Vegas with Adam and then we were in a casino and walking by a roulette table. And so he puts down like $50 on red or something.
Probably 33.
No, because I put $100 on 33. Well, and I had a big grin on my face. I'm like, I'm here with a Podfather. Fuck it, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. And if that would have hit, what a story that would be.
Right. And then the spin comes and it's like 36.
Oh.
I'm like, So I didn't, like we both lost. He didn't get his odds or evens. I didn't get my number. As we're walking away, next spin on the board, 33.
Oh. See, all you had to do it was 2 in a row.
2 in a row. That's all it would have taken. $200.
Because it is
what does that pay out?
36 to 1, I think. Yeah,
36 to 1. Yeah, there you go.
You'd have had a nice steak dinner coming.
Yeah, well, instead we went to a burger place.
See, there you go.
Yeah, exactly. That was an expensive burger.
He stopped one too early.
One too early. True story. So I finally got the Motu figured out.
Finally, you've only had it for 4 years now?
I know, right? Well,
it is a very complex device.
The reinstalling, I finally did what I think you've been telling me you've had for a while, but I never bothered doing it, which is set it up for 4 people.
Ooh, nice.
So 4 independent in and out channels with 4 different mix minuses. Basically doing the thing that this new whiz-bang Australian roadcaster cannot do.
Correct. And that's what I've asked everybody that has it. And it sounds like a really good device for a lot of people, depending on your needs.
Here's the funny thing. This device has been panned by one of the well-known video creators that I watch for that very reason. He's like, well, when we get on a live stream on Twitch and we got like 4 people on, they all hear themselves.
Right.
This isn't going to do it. Now, he says he's been talking to Rode. They've been talking to him, and they're saying they're going to come out with a software update that will allow them to do that. Now, I believe it when I see it. But right now, it appears like you do have one mix minus. Adam confirmed that. Talked to him about it. But I think that's all you get. One mix minus.
There are 2 actual distinct USB ports, which I don't even understand why you would need that. So you can go and do a mix minus either on 2 different machines or allegedly 2 to the same machine. I mean, of course, I have not tested this out, but that seems to be the limitation unless you want to add in a Bluetooth device, which nobody does. And
Bluetooth is pretty crap.
The reality is the original devices, the problem was they were really more for music. They were never created for podcasters.
Well, it was the closest device they had for podcasting. It wasn't perfect. It was basically musicians make a device for podcasters.
Right. So they made some changes to this one, which seemed to be good changes. And it is perfect for the average Adam Curry show, for instance, who is a guy locally and bringing somebody remotely, works perfectly for that.
Yeah, one local dude, one remote dude seems to be good for that.
And I think you can add one other person to that mix now with the Rode. Again, haven't tested that. But if you want to add 2 people, then you're paying for another service like CleanFeed or something.
I've been tempted to pick one up, and I've actually dude named Ben, my other co-host here, sent an email to Adam right away as soon as Adam mentioned he was on the Rodecaster 2. Said, "Hey, dude, I'll buy your Motu."
And Adam's like, "No."
Yeah, exactly. It's like, good luck with that one. I mean, I know you'd love it, but I don't. As much as Adam may say this product does it all now, they've done what we originally talked about doing 7 years ago and worked on 7 years ago. But the reality is, I don't think he'll be willing to let the Motu go.
No, well, I think if I had to put money down, at some point, Adam goes back to the Motu, is my guess, because it is a more professional device. The Rodecaster, it's a cutesy thing. I get it. The buttons you got faders that you can feel, and a lot of people like that. But for me, the Motu is a more professional device, I think, and the Motu totally disappears. It's sitting underneath a monitor of mine, and it's taking up.
You don't even see it.
Yeah, exactly. No desk space. So it's like magic. Hey, well, you got a fan? Are you doing this live?
Yeah, I'm doing it live.
This is a cool idea.
I mean, I've got buttons programmed now.
Damn.
Because every podcaster needs buttons. That's what the Rode marketing literature told me.
Yes, you have to have the sound effects built into that. I mean, I can up what is on the program that I use, which is free. It's called Mix. If anybody's doing live streaming, it's great. mixxx.org. And I can have 8 different carts, and then you can add more to that where it's all just in the software. And then you can add the hotkeys if you want.
You can do that, or you could just use the Stream Deck, which has it built in now.
Yes, which is a beautiful thing as well.
Which is what I'm using. Yeah, exactly. You have 48 buttons of sound effects or anything else you want in there.
You're kind of right with that. If you add a Stream Deck to a Motu, you could do everything.
Everything. Totally.
Including bringing people in and out and muting things. And but that is where this device falls short. So if you have, like we do a show, so okay, there's one channel done. If we want to bring in one guest, perfect. If we want to bring in 2 guests and you have the Rode, you can't do it.
Yep.
Unless you go to something again like a CleanFeed, and then that you're paying for another service to do that.
Well, you could do unlimited guests on, I don't know about CleanFeed, but definitely on Zencastr, you could do whatever you want. That's what I use for the other podcast, is Zencastr, and you can keep adding people.
Yes. So that one channel coming in, that would work.
But it's a different experience, because at that point, then what's coming into you isn't the recording mix. What's coming into you is essentially the headphone mix. It's your own version of a mix minus coming from Zencastr.
True.
So you're not hearing yourself, but you're hearing all the other people on the same podcast. So, I mean, really, you don't need a mix minus if you do use something like Zencastr.
Correct. So if you want to add that to the mix, it's way easier. If you want to be a true DIY.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, do you want to do it in hardware or software? Because you kind of need a network connection anyway to do any kind of a guest show, because you don't have a guest without a network connection. But if you have a network connection, you might as well use Zencastr, which is free for I don't remember, it's got limits for the free version, but certainly 2 people on it, or even 2 guests and 1 host, is still free.
Right. And CleanFeed the same way.
Yeah, CleanFeed's the same way. CleanFeed has minimal feature set, I find. Zencastr, I like Zencastr for the fact that even on the free version, it records the audio. So it is doing the master recording. You can do a backup recording if you like. And what you end up with is, and it integrates, by the way, with Dropbox. So the cool thing is, I don't even need to download those files. As soon as the stop button is pressed, those files are magically in my Dropbox for that show.
Yeah, that is nice.
Locally. So, and all I do is just drag and drop those files into, now I'm still using Descript for this, but you could use any audio app. I probably will drop Descript just because I'm not live recording it anymore. And the only thing it's really doing is building the transcription.
Yeah, and the Adobe Premiere does a fantastic
job. That as well, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, there's a lot of these things that are now starting to overlap.
Yeah. So,
what are you using to get the multiple calls in? Are you just spawning multiple windows of the CleanFeed or through Zencastr when you set up the multi-mix minuses?
Oh yeah, so for doing more than one other person, yeah, I've just done multiple CleanFeeds. That seems to be the easiest.
Yeah, in different browsers, so you can route them around. So for people that are trying to do that at home, yeah, that is the trick. Go get different browsers.
There may be a better way to do it. This is the quick and dirty way to do it.
Yes, and it works. It absolutely works as long as you've routed your mix minuses correctly.
Right. And that's the part that I didn't even bother attempting until now. And now with this latest reset of the device and the rebuilding of the computer, I figured there was a good opportunity to do that.
You're like, it just works then. Once it's set
now
up.
Everything works. The only thing that was screwed up right now when you first brought me in was I had the headphones playing a different mix, so I couldn't hear you.
That'll do it. You can send different things to different places. Again, it's a very professional oriented device. It's not the easy plug it in. It's not for the faint of heart. I've told a few podcasters that who were interested in it. And it's like, it's going to take a little bit of trial and error to figure out how the routing works.
You're definitely best off working with somebody who does this. And I remember when Adam got his, after he played with mine for a while, I sent them screenshots of everything, and then he replied back. It's like, no, dude, I'm going to figure this out.
And then okay. How long until he was asking how to do it again?
Well, the thing is, Adam has worked with a physical patch bay, right? So he gets what they're representing digitally. So I think it was probably much easier for him than most people.
True.
Because when you first go to that routing table, it's like, why am I looking at a spreadsheet?
It's a lot of squares.
What is this? And
the fact that you can't just click each individual square on and off, that there's a dragging and move. It's like, what is this?
It's are we playing the game Battleship on
yes.
here? What's going on?
It's exactly like playing Battleship.
You sank my Battleship, man.
If you win, you get delightful sound. If you lose, it's pretty much silence.
And as far as I know, now maybe there is something now, but certainly when I bought this device, there was zero documentation. Like, I think it literally still none.
Is. Yeah.
So Motu's assumption is, oh, are you not a professional?
Because it's a professional device.
This is a professional device. You're supposed to know what you're doing for doing audio patching, and if you don't, I guess you need to watch some videos and learn.
Yeah, I went to podfathergear.com, and that's where I got it from. Adam's screenshots. They were quite helpful.
Yep.
And it's the same way in both the MK4 and the AVB Motu, which you have. I'll say just once again, if anybody missed it, the MK5, not the same.
Yeah, don't buy the MK5, or at least not for this purpose.
Yes, because you can't do the
actually. What's his name? Ben's got an MK5 right now, I think, and the audio quality is great.
Oh yeah,
I wanted one. Have this, yeah,
because they upped everything. They upped the preamps and the circuitry and whatever the magic is
even
going on.
Cleaner, which they're super clean with the ones we have, but they made them even cleaner, meaning lower noise ceiling,
which is good because we can only run so many filters. Although the filters are getting better and better too.
Filters are pretty good, but as we talked about on the last show, I've actually turned off all my EQing and all the other crap.
The live DSP, it sounds better.
All of it is turned off right now, so you're getting this just my voice with no. The only thing that's on is the gate. The gate is still on.
You're getting the pure Gene experience.
That's right.
It's a beautiful thing. I mean, it'll be interesting. I mean, they've already updated this thing once. I know they have room in the firmware to do things.
Mm-hmm.
And once they figure out a way to bring in 4 people.
Well, yours may have been updated once. I think I've seen 3 or 4 updates since I bought it.
Yeah, I've had mine, I think, once or twice only updated.
Okay. Probably twice.
But these, the Rode thing will be updated. They keep promising they're adding more features.
Yeah, the Rode. I think Rode had 4 or 5 updates in 2 years last time.
Oh, so because the minute they came out, people were like, wait, why can't I do this? I mean, there was something very simple you couldn't do, like record to the computer or something.
Either record to the computer or the card. And people are like, well, why? You should record to both. One's making a backup, one I'm actually using.
And they were like, oh, it was like they had never talked to anybody doing a podcast before.
Right. Exactly.
Which seemed to be Adam Curry's biggest complaint was, I've got a little experience with this. Maybe you could have picked up a phone and been like, hey, any tips?
Yeah. Since you guys ripped off the spec sheet directly off of our website, yes, that would be good. And even the shape of the damn thing is exactly the shape that I modeled in CAD 7 years ago.
They're like, this seems like a really good idea.
Yeah, these guys never went anywhere, but they got some money in the Kickstarter. Let's just make this.
There you go.
Yeah, and the fact that they added a second USB literally right off our device that was missing on their first model. We had that, and now they've got it.
Audio routing, fun for the whole family.
Yeah, and that was the whole point, is that back 7 years ago, that was the only way that I could figure out on how to do multi-channel mix minuses. It's like, well, we're going to have to add a second USB chip. Well, are people going to be willing to plug in 2 cables? Well, we'll find out.
Right. That is the way to find out. I know when I asked my buddy Metis of the Fun Fact Friday show, because he picked one up, and I'm like, well, sell me on this. What can I do with this that I can't do with the Motu? And he said, record without a computer. And I'm like, okay,
there you go.
Good answer, and something that I doubt I would ever want to do. But I can see where people would, like if you're going to a buddy's house.
The Motu you can run off an iPad and record to the iPad.
That is true. You just need something there to...
It's something that has a USB port, but including the iPad, it works fine with it. I've tried it before. It does get a little bulky because it's not wireless at that point. It actually has to be plugged in if you're recording on the iPad. But you can control it. Like I've got the Moto set up to be, controllable through the iPad wirelessly, but it's plugged into the computer.
Well, and if you were only doing a 2-person podcast, you can also have it just set it up on a computer, set it up to put the 2 channels going out and just bring a Zoom or other portable recorder with you.
I mean, honestly, if you're just doing 2 people, I would get those headphones with the DSP that I got that we tested on a couple of shows back, and use Zencaster. And that's it.
True.
And
or just if you're local, do a Zoom recorder. That works
it's
too.
Literally but Zencaster makes it easy to download the 2 files separately so you can actually level them separately.
Zoom will do that too. It'll record on individual channels. Just
you can download the individual audio tracks on Zoom. I didn't realize that.
A hardware Zoom device, not the Zoom.
Software. I thought you were talking about Zoom meeting. No. I'm like, Zoom meeting's getting into podcasting. That's interesting. I haven't heard that.
Zoom. It's just a little Zoom portable recorder. You could do a 2-person show, and they've made for years. They don't have all the fancy stuff. It's basically you could plug in like 4 to 6 microphones and level them without, none of the fancy stuff. I don't think he had it in as far as the processing, but there's a lot more devices out today than there were 3 years ago.
Yeah. But you don't even need a device, is my point. Is right now with Zencaster, and I think CleanFeed paid version lets you do recordings as well.
And I think the free one does too. It's just MP3 only, I think. Maybe not.
On CleanFeed, I didn't think the free version did any recording. I thought it only allowed you to transmit audio. But I don't know. Well, whatever. The point is, you literally don't need.
No, there's a record button here.
You can go ahead and hit it. So you can hit the record button and it's going to start recording. Let me know what it does after the recording.
It's like, name this session. Okay, we'll name this Unrelenting. Yeah.
Because you have the free version right now, right?
Yes. I put unrenting, but that's the same. Add day and time to the file name, record.
Renting.
Yes. Unrenting, which is going to be what's happening to a lot of people that can't afford their rent. And then it will allow you to record the audio for my audio only, guest only, everyone,
or both,
or a stereo split, right? So everyone.
So
and I hit
everyone
record,
create two files then?
And now it's recording. No, it's only going to be one altogether.
But each track is a separate. Oh no, it's going to combine them.
It is going to combine them.
So you could do a stereo. Whatchamacallit?
Yes,
so
if you really
the
wanted
nice
to do that.
thing then is even the free version of Zencaster, you can have 3 people on there and it'll generate 3 soundtracks.
No, it'll only generate 1. But because it's going to mix those all together for free. Now, if you want...
your CleanFeed, I'm saying on Zencaster, it'll generate 3 separate tracks. Yeah, even in the free version.
So yes, CleanFeed will not do that. They will give you 1 track and removed recording. Unrenting. Yeah, we don't need to actually record that. But yes, you can do this.
Unrenting is a great show. I highly recommend people listen to it.
Yes.
I've been a guest on there. I enjoy it. And you guys should check it out.
Along with Sergine Speaks and Random Thoughts and all the other shows.
And the Crazy Larry Guy show. That's a good one.
Right. I love the Crazy Larry Guy show.
Yeah. Yeah.
People
Tech Nerd News. I hear Tech Nerd News is a great show.
Tech Nerd News. Yeah. No, Angry Tech Nerd News.
Angry Tech Nerd News. Sorry. I mixed up the URL.
And then you can't forget Grumpy Old Ben's. I mean, you were also a guest over there.
Which one now?
Grumpy Old Ben's. You were on that show.
Does not ring a bell.
No, may not. It's a small show.
Let's talk about Ukraine.
Why?
It's in the news. Shocker.
Again? Really? Why? Why now? What's going on different that hasn't been going on?
I'll tell you what's going on. Poland is stealing all the gold out of Ukraine.
Really?
Yes. This is awesome. Yes. So in spite of the fact that Ukraine is winning and has been for the last 6 months.
Well, of course, because Russia is a weakened
everybody knows that
army. They're really down to their bare threads.
Literally on the brink of invading Russia and going into Moscow right now, the way I hear.
I mean, things are so bad. Yeah. I mean, soon Ukraine will take over Russia.
That's the plan. Is they're supposed to have, there's a few plans,
and then they will get to join NATO, and then Putin will come back to power.
Right. That's right, because Russia will be part of NATO under the Ukrainian rule.
What if this is all a head fake? I mean, Putin's even faking his illness, whatever it is.
Oh, he totally might be.
And then they're like, okay, Ukraine takes over Russia. Now you're in NATO. And then Vlad's like, ha.
Yes, we've always wanted to be in NATO, and now we're back in NATO.
Thanks for getting us in.
And but somehow there's a big concern in Ukraine about the fact that Russia might capture the Ukrainian gold reserves.
Ooh.
And preemptively, they have now decided to ship all Ukrainian gold to Poland for safekeeping. Now, this is interesting to me because not only has the United States happily thrown all the people of Ukraine at Russia because it's cheaper to throw people than bullets, apparently, and then willing to sacrifice people to the last Ukrainian, as our great president has said. But now also they have stolen the money of Ukraine, which does not belong to the government of Ukraine. It belongs to the people of Ukraine. And if the people of Ukraine are happy to see the Russian liberators coming in and defeating this, 2014, so 7-year-old occupation force that's been brought in by the United States into Ukraine. if they're happy to see that, well, just to make sure they're less happy, they're going to steal all their gold.
That does not seem fair.
Well, I mean, I think they have more gold than the 900 billion, which they're currently asking for from the West. It is the best money laundering situation I've ever seen. Somebody really needs to make a movie about this. Call it the Big Heist or something similar, about how Western politicians picked on this poor Slavic country that didn't know any better and basically turned it into a huge money laundering operation. And when threatened with that coming to an end, decided to just burn the country to the ground, steal everything they could on their way out. It's very reminiscent of the Germans stealing artwork from every country they invaded and then shipping it back to Berlin.
Well, yeah.
Except here, it's allegedly being invaded by Russia, which is really liberating the country.
Well,
and
it's great.
It is the people that took over the country 7 years ago that are actually stealing everything and shipping it out of the country right now.
Yeah, and Ukrainians are dying because they keep getting sent weapons to go up against the. It makes very little sense when you look at it from a little further back.
The West is basically sending big flags with red targets drawn on them to Ukraine for Russia to drop something on.
But hey, let us hold your gold.
We'll hold your gold in Poland. Don't worry. Did you watch the show Everybody Hates Chris? It was a great sitcom. No. Are you thinking Raymond or Chris?
Chris. Everybody Hates Chris. It was the Chris Rock show.
I thought Everybody Hates Raymond was a show.
Everybody loves Raymond. Everybody hates Chris.
I like Chris Rock.
He's hilarious.
Chris Rock.
One of the ongoing bits was him, because this is all about his childhood, that there was the, thugs, although they were somewhat friendly thugs in the neighborhood, that every time they would see Chris, they'd be like, let me hold $1. And he would have to give him $1. That was just, let me hold $1. This is kind of what we're doing. Like, let us hold your gold. Yeah, let us hold your gold. You're never getting it back.
Yeah, no, they'll never get it back. And that's the other thing that's so hilarious is all these emotions towards, Ukraine will be NATO. Okay, so a Russia-friendly government, Ukraine, is going to be in NATO? Is NATO going to like that? Because you realize there is no process for kicking a country out of NATO. It doesn't exist. There is no process ever developed that is...
to expel somebody.
Yeah.
Once you're in, you're in.
Exactly. It literally does not exist.
Well, this is the knee-jerk reactions that we get in this society now. I mean, you saw it with COVID. It's the same thing here. It's like, oh no, war, Russia. Oh, wait, let's let them into NATO, quick. And then it's like, wait, what did we do? Now what? Anybody think of that? No, but at least Boris is getting kicked out of office over in the UK. You can't trust anybody.
So that's the other part that's happened is, he's been one of the most war hawkish politicians as far as Ukraine's concerned.
You're getting a little choked up here that Boris is leaving.
Yeah, causing massive problems in England for the British people. But and to the point where he has to resign. But no one seems to be figuring out the curse of Ukraine here is that when you support Ukraine more than people in your own country, your own people are going to get rid of you.
Well, no, not here. We love it. Let's send all our money to Ukraine while this country falls apart. Let's send all the aid. Let's send all the weapons. Because Russian people coming across the border into Ukraine is bad. But, anybody wants to come across the southern border here, come on in. It's okay.
Yep.
Let's forget the fact how many that they've caught that were on terror watch list. Just imagine how many were smart enough to evade getting caught.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing to see here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I mean, I just feel so bad for people in Ukraine right now because they've been sucked into this private war. Most people in most countries just want to be left alone and live their lives. They're not wanting to be working for the government or in the military or any of these things. So consequently, it's a
yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's. I'm just trying to put my thoughts together. I mean, basically, the majority of the people, I think, that experience any kind of a conflict, whether it's you call it a revolution, whether you call it an invasion, whatever it is, they're just trying to get on with their lives. This was true in Iraq. This was true in Afghanistan. This was true in Syria. This is true in every place that the U.S. has invaded in the last 20, 30 years. And it's certainly true in Ukraine this time around with Russia invading Ukraine. People just want to have the least impact on their lives.
Well, and you're seeing why it's being done. I mean, if you look at a map.
And if this, well, let me finish the thought. If this was the way that they're portraying it, Ukraine pushing back against Russia and Russian aggression and wanting to, keep Russians out of their country, you wouldn't need to have mandatory conscription the way that Ukraine's had it since the first day of this conflict. You would have people lining up ready to get shipped off to the front if this was a patriotic activity. You had that in World War II. You had people willing to join up. Nobody needed to be conscripted. And right now, the latest thing that I just heard today is they're looking at starting to conscript women into the Ukrainian army.
Well, that's equity.
Well, it is equity. I mean, we can make lots of jokes about it, but the point at which a country is forcing its mothers to give up their children to state control.
You mean birthing
and
people?
To go fight. That country is a lot closer to Nazi Germany, all jokes aside, than anything else. Because in Nazi Germany, you lived for the country. The country didn't exist for your benefit. And so you were expected to make every concession that they wanted out of you. If you have a country that is motivated by a common cause, like the UK during World War II, for example, or the US during World War II, you don't need to conscript people. You get volunteers ready to go. We had that here in 2001 after the World Trade Center bombing.
Yes.
People were willing to... What?
A ton of people went into the army.
Yeah, a ton of people went into all the branches of the military because they were passionate about it. They saw this as a reason to do it. And unfortunately, they became disillusioned when they realized what happens after they join the military is they're sent to Afghanistan to guard poppy fields from the Taliban, which didn't like all the drug production and was harassing the poppy farmers. The U.S. came in to guard those. I mean, it's like, what?
Yeah, you end up doing a lot of...
Where's the weapons of mass destruction that everybody was gung-hoing about? Yo, we're going to kick his ass. Yeah, there were no weapons of mass destruction that we now know.
Well,
there never were.
By the time
Bush
that
knew it.
You got there. I believe there was.
There weren't. Well, we have proof, dude. We have the people that actually came up with the lies have now said that, yes, those were just created to get the public on the side of the government.
There were never seen anybody saying that.
Well, you've heard it. I would invite anybody that would have a brain to do a Google search on this topic. You'll get plenty of articles.
You're sending people to Google?
I sent John to Google the other day. John, so I posted a little blurb about how in Canada now all the uniforms are now unisex, meaning men can wear skirts and lipstick and
the Canadian military.
The Canadian military. I can't believe you didn't see this.
No,
So Yeah, yeah.
I don't
So I
see
posted
anything.
this on. You don't really look at No Agenda Social, do you?
I do.
I
but
post
there's-
an average of 20 things a day on there.
I mean, I think I probably have you muted or blocked.
I'm not sure you even subscribe. You probably do have me blocked. I know, right? Well, I'm good. You keep talking, I'll block your ass.
Yes, please. Can I have another?
Yes. So the Canadian military, I posted a little screenshot about it. And then John replies to my email and says, not sure about this. Do you have any authenticated sources?
Which is
So
always a good, valid question.
So, yeah, a totally valid question. But again, all I did was type into Google those same words, and it brought me to the official website of the Canadian Armed Forces, where there was a Q&A about the new dress code. And in that dress code, it says, yes, men can request clothes that have been previously only in the women's military catalog, and women can request clothes that have been in the men's catalog. And we're getting rid of all the archaic 50-year-old restrictions on things like hair color, chewing gum, tattoos that are visible. All these things have been removed.
The world's
Because
going to
I
hell.
think somebody did the math and said, hey, you know what? There's not a single Gen Zer who has no tattoos. They literally all have tattoos. So if we have an anti-tattoo policy in our military code,
Then everybody gets a
we're not
tattoo.
going to have a military. There
Yeah.
will not be anybody as the older guys retire. There will not be a military. So
yeah, but you see what happens when you give these tattooed people guns, and what you saw that in Chicago, the suburbs to here over the 4th of
and
July.
that's I'm glad you went there, because that is exactly the representative of the Gen Z generation with the colored hair, the facial tattoos, and and again, now there's already arguments for like, see, this is why we need red flag laws. This is why we passed this. The reality is,
We have red flag
you
laws
don't
here.
need
they
red
didn't
flag
work.
laws, Stuart.
Yeah.
You have somebody that has been previously
in the system.
yeah, not just in the system, but like they had to confiscate his other weapons previously.
Yes, his family obviously called the police on him.
How did this person go through the background check?
I think a lot of it is that in this country, for whatever reason, we separate what is a juvenile record from what is an adult record. And that I've talked about this before. This has to stop.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. I mean, I knew that happened, but I didn't realize that was what the problem was in this case. Because I looked at him, I was like, how did this guy not get declined? Because every time you buy a gun, you go through the ATF system. You have to answer a bunch of questions, and then they will check to see if you are in any databases that where you don't want to be on those databases that says you can't have a weapon. If you've ever committed a felony, you'd be in there. If you are on the no-fly list, you'd be in there. If you are, there's a whole slew of things. Some of them maybe are going too far that would prevent somebody from being able to obtain a weapon legally. Now, if you obtain it illegally, then none of these rules matter because criminals be criminals. Not much you can do to make new laws specifically targeting criminals. But
Right.
if he obtained it legally, which it sounds like he did with his dad's help,
Yes, who's obviously at fault here.
I would make the dad a co-conspirator in this case and sentence him probably to manslaughter.
It would make sense.
You cannot be buying a gun or signing paperwork that allows your kid to buy a gun when your kid is nuts.
Right. And he's got to, again, hate to judge a book by the cover for all of you who are listening who might have facial tattoos and the rest like this kid had. But no, that kind of screams that you've got some kind of mental issue.
I did a Mike Tyson facial tattoo like 6-7 years ago. And like not a real tattoo.
Yeah, not
fake
not
tattoo.
not a permanent one.
It was done with henna, right? So it was permanent for 7 days, or thereabouts, and just slowly faded out. But people kept a bigger distance from me than normal when I had that.
Yeah, I could see that.
That was the weirdest thing. I'd never gone through that experience. I mean, to some people, I look intimidating to begin with. I have the 1,000-yard stare usually, but it doesn't take long when people hear me speak to realize, oh, well, he's like Santa Claus.
Right. He's a benevolent.
Yeah, exactly. And when I had the facial tattoo on, dude, there's about a 25-foot area in front of me that was always empty. Because when you do a facial tattoo, that says something about your character, which is, I'm not trying to fit in.
Right.
And I'm not trying to look pretty. I'm letting you know that if I do this to my own face, what do you think I'm going to do to your face?
That's a good point. To that, I had never seen, I don't know if this is a recurring bit. I just saw it on the YouTube's Your Favorite Place, which was a Jimmy Kimmel show bit. They do a lot of this man on the street thing where they're asking people questions. And in this particular one, they were asking him about athletes. And, the one guy was a young, maybe 22-year-old black dude. And they're like, well, what do you think of Mike Tyson's facial tattoos? And he's like, I think they're ugly as fuck. Now, of course, the bit here is Mike Tyson is there. And as this guy's giving the answer, Mike Tyson is like walking up behind him next to him. And so as the guy's finishing, he looks next to him like, oh, Tyson's just before Tyson went out. He's like, yeah, he better be happy I'm a peace loving man or something like that. But,
Did you see Mike Tyson interviewing Alex Jones?
No. Was that good?
Yeah.
I know he has a podcast.
Yeah. So Alex Jones was just on there.
Tyson's an interesting character.
He's got a white beard now, which, I mean, it makes sense. He's that old.
Yeah, he looks like he's starting to look nice. Although when you fuck with him on an airplane, he'll still put you back in your seat.
I'm sure. But yeah, well, he just looks like a black dude who's in good shape of that age where black dudes generally on movies are giving you words of wisdom. Like the black guy with the white beard is always the character that gives you sage advice.
The Morgan Freeman character right now.
Well, Morgan Freeman seems to have played an awful lot of those characters.
Yes. He's got the voice, though.
He's been, people say that. His voice ain't all that.
I mean, it's not.
He's got
James
a decent
Earl
voice,
Jones,
but it's not exactly. It's exactly right. He's no James Earl Jones. Absolutely.
See, that guy can talk, man.
That guy had a very, very good voice. I loved him in Conan the Barbarian.
I mean, everybody, of course, knows him, Darth Vader's voice, but I liked him because, again, I have a love affair that comes and goes with baseball. In the Field of Dreams, he was great. And I think my favorite, if you watch, and I know some people hate the show, some people love it, The Big Bang Theory. I did during COVID. I did a marathon viewing of every season of that show. Now, the James Earl Jones episode was fantastic. When Sheldon meets him, and James Earl Jones is a bigger geek than Sheldon is. Yeah. It was a great episode. It was hilarious.
That show did cameos so well. Because everybody would play an exaggerated version of themselves.
Yeah.
And so you had, because other shows, like I remember Love Boat had cameos every episode. And you got used to seeing, a variety of stars cycling through there. Like Pia, what's her face?
Pia Zadora.
Yeah.
Yeah. The fact that I know that means I'm old. And I've seen the Love Boat.
You are definitely old. Exactly.
Don't forget Charo.
Charo.
Yeah.
Yes.
Gucci.
Gucci. Yeah. So for people that have never heard of Love Boat, you can Google it.
I thought they rebooted it recently.
Did they? I don't know. I don't even know. But it was a kind of a neat idea for a show. It was a weekly cruise, and you had 5 people that were the staff on the cruise that were recurring characters. And then, of course, because it's a cruise, you have brand new actors going through, and they're the plotline characters, so they're bringing their storyline arcs with them. And some of them are just whatever, no name actors, but plenty of them were well-known actors that happened to be going through there. And it was a much more plausible way to do it than to have, a show about people living on a farm where all of a sudden famous people keep showing up randomly.
Right.
It's like, it's a cruise ship. So it makes some, and it was at the time, it was the largest cruise ship in the world. The Pacific Princess at the time of the show was as good as cruise ships got. Now it's probably half the size of modern cruise ships. I've never been on that ship, but I've been on a few other of the princess ships.
And did you find love?
Did I find? No, amazingly, I did not. I found plenty of alcohol though.
Oh, well, that's close enough.
Yeah. But anyway, so the idea of shows with guests going through famous people is fine. But on Big Bang Theory, they did it really well because they typically had the guest be just an exaggerated version of themselves. Like Will Wheaton, who became a recurring character.
Yes, actually playing Will Wheaton.
Yeah, playing an asshole Will Wheaton, much like he is in real life, from what I hear.
Yeah.
So, and he does a great job playing those characters. I don't know why. Maybe it's all the practice, but he did the same thing on a show that started off as a web show, which was what was it called? The Guild. The Guild was a show with Felicia. What's her last name? Felicia something.
I know who you're talking about, the gamer
put together.
girl.
Yeah, the kind of red-haired one. And it started off online only, and after I think 2 seasons, it was picked up to actually be on TV on one of the channels. But he played himself in that one as well as, the guy that's like also into video games and sci-fi shit with a nasty personality. And so he does a great job playing these characters. So it was always fun.
Felicia Day. Thank you, Dryhusker.
That's right. Felicia Day, correct. Who, used to be pretty cute back then.
And once you get to the point in your career where you're just getting paid to play you, that's not even really work.
Well, but it's not so much a point in your career because he pretty much didn't really act a whole lot after his stint on Star Trek.
True.
And then I think he's written a number of books. He seems to be very, very woke in all the aspects of wokeness.
A lot of folks are.
A lot of folks from Hollywood and California certainly are. And he was definitely the most hated character on Star Trek The Next Generation, which I remember watching when it was first brand new every week.
Well, because everybody's like, what are you throwing a kid into the mix for?
Well, he has no business being, he can live on the ship. He has no business working on the ship.
Correct. But they wanted to capture that audience.
Yeah, it's like, we'll get the young. No, believe me, what captures that audience is not watching another kid. It is watching cool sci-fi shit and uniforms with low-cut females.
Yeah, but now it could be males in those if you're watching a Canadian Star Trek.
There were males in those. If you watch Star Trek, the movie, the uniforms were somewhat unisex.
See, they were way ahead of their time.
Well, they were predicting the future. Yeah, totally. So there is I think it was the first one. Somebody correct me. It was either the first one or maybe the fourth Star Trek, but for sure there were uniforms where there were men walking around in dresses in Star Trek.
Oh, there's no question. There is no question. And
just like Canada.
Yeah, just like that. You can go up there. You can get some maple syrup, wear a dress, whatever you want to do. Whatever feels good.
Wasn't there a Monty Python skit about that in the 70s?
Probably. There was a Monty Python skit about a lot of stuff.
About a lumberjack?
Yeah.
Wears high heels and a dress?
I recall something like that, but it all kind of melds in together. For some reason, the bookstore was always one of my favorites, which was a full bookstore, and somebody came in would ask for a title, and I'd be like, books? No books. These are sold. Thank you. Good morning. And
these are sold.
Yes. I never, it's like I got to go back, and there's a lot of this stuff I watched as a kid where I think I only remember like parts of it, and they don't all really make sense, but that's reality now. Because, going back to the Highland Park shooter, there have been other people in the Chicago area now, rightfully so, aldermen, stuff like that, pointing out that, yeah, there were, I don't remember the numbers exactly here, 20-something, 30-something people the kid shot, and like a handful, like 7 dead, 8 dead, something like that. Well, there were more people shot and killed in Chicago that weekend than at the parade, but ain't nobody talking about that because the shooter wasn't a white kid who got the gun legally.
Right. Exactly.
But there were more shootings outside of that, but those were mainly black with no legal guns, most likely. So that's inconvenient to point that out.
I think I found it. Let's see if this plays, or if it doesn't play, let me know.
We are hearing silence.
You're hearing silence? Okay.
Yes. You do not know how to route your audio.
I do.
Please, audio, sir.
I do. Okay, let's try this. See if you can hear this.
No. We know the Motu can do it.
God damn it. What the frick?
I mean, I hear it like in the background, like coming out of a speaker or something.
Yeah, it is
now.
coming out of the speaker. That it shouldn't be. This worked last time I did this.
With a dude named Ben?
Yeah, with a dude named Ben.
On Searching Speaks.
Okay. How about this? Do you hear this?
Negative. Can you hear me now?
Nothing.
No, you're like the Verizon guy all of a sudden.
I can hear you now, fine, but you don't hear anything right now.
I can see clearly now.
So why would it be doing, about, let me try this.
He's working with a mix minus, see Brooklyn.
How about this?
Negative.
Seriously, that one you should have been hearing.
No, I can play clips that you hear, so I don't know why, we're just hearing you. We're hearing the pure G experience.
That is so strange because you should be definitely hearing these clips.
I should be definitely hearing them, but I'm not.
Wow. Okay.
I may just be so transfixed by your voice that anything else just disappears.
I mean,
literally.
Maybe. I don't know. It worked last time.
People are giving Motu karma in the troll room.
Motu karma? I know, right? That's awesome.
Come on, Motu, do your thing.
I
mean, it could do everything. You just have to figure out how to make it do it.
Well, it's not a Motu issue. It's just routing the browser that's playing YouTube to the right thing is the issue.
Yeah, you got to get that on the right channel.
Yeah, and I just went through like 6 different channels.
You're like, none of them. It's not working.
Like, what the frick?
I mean, if you have a link, you can send the link to me, and then, or you could just.
Yeah, I guess I could do that, but it should be like it's set up right here.
If it's a YouTube video, you could just convert it to an MP3.
So I'm on 3. I'm on 1, 2. You're on 5, 6. Talk a little bit.
1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3.
No,
this is a
3,
podcast.
4.
That's funny.
So
you're on 3, 4.
Am I? Oh, really? That's too funny.
Yeah.
So maybe the one I haven't tried yet is 5, 6, which I thought was the one you were on, which is why I didn't try it. So let me put on 5, 6.
3, 1, 2.
If you can hear this.
Negative.
Nothing.
No.
Okay. Well,
3, 4 out. 9, 10 in is my normal channel for you. I don't know why.
9, 10.
It was set up that way. Yeah. Because you just throw enough crap at it until it works, and then you're like, I'll just leave it there.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Leave it there and have Post-it notes with what you need to set things to.
CleanFeed doesn't have a facility unlike Zendesk for sending notes, does it?
I do not believe it does, no.
So I need to email you.
This is live podcasting.
We're live podcast. This is how it happens. This is what every live podcast does. They email messages back and forth.
Or it's texting. It's all, that's there. There's a magical system called the internet that people can communicate with.
Okay. I sent you the message. Anyway, we can keep going. But it is a cute little song that kind of talks about Canadians, wearing dresses.
A cute little song about Canadians.
Yeah.
I don't know if there is such a thing. But that is the reality for the shootings, is that this is quite normal for Chicago, and this is going to get massive news coverage and people still yelling about getting guns off the street.
Yeah.
But the problem is that this is how many months in a row? Do you see this story? That how many people have been doing the background check things? It's been over 1 million a month for months.
Yep.
Tons of people going to get guns, and a lot of them are female and minorities. So this is interesting for the Democrats.
Well, and it's also interesting that the guy that did the shooting is a Democrat.
Oh, I thought he was like a commie. I mean, that's
commie, Democrat, same difference. Yeah, same difference. My point being that you look at the list of people he was following on his Twitter account.
Were they
Joe
scary?
Biden,
Really?
Nancy Pelosi, all Democrats, not a single conservative he was following. He is one of the woke crowd.
That is scary. I mean, who would follow Nancy Pelosi unless he was just looking for the big bosom picks? Yeah.
So everything about this guy screams Gen Z socialist type.
Giant redwood, the larch, the fir, the mighty Scots pine. What about my bloody parrot? The smell of fresh cut timber, the crash of mighty trees. With my best
some Canadians
by my side, we'd sing.
There you go.
Sing. Did I tell you, Gene?
I'm a lumberjack and I'm okay. I sleep all night and I work all day.
He's a lumberjack and he's okay. He sleeps all night and he works all day.
It's catchy.
I cut down trees, I eat my lunch, I go to the lavatory. On Wednesday I go shopping and have buttered scones for tea.
He cuts down trees, he eats his lunch, he goes to the lavatory. On Wednesday he goes shopping and has buttered scones for tea. He's a lumberjack.
Now, this being caught in somebody's head, this is dangerous.
No, it's not copyrighted.
I cut down trees, I skip and jump. I like to press wildflowers. I put on women's clothing and hang around in bars.
He cuts down trees, he skips and jumps. He likes to press wildflowers. He puts on women's clothing and hangs around in bars. He's a lumberjack and he's okay. He sleeps all night and he works all day.
I cut down trees, I wear high heels, suspenders and a bra. I wish I'd been a girlie, just like my dear papa. I cut down trees, I wear high heels, suspenders and a bra. I wish I'd been a girlie, just like my dear papa.
Oh, Travis! And I thought
There you go.
were so budge!
Yeah, thanks for putting that in everybody's head.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, there's a couple of things here. One is I have a great memory for things I can't remember the names of. Two is, Monty Python over 50 years ago and out of copyright. It's amazing that they were so ahead of their time talking about the Canadian transvestite law restriction lifting.
The biggest issue I take with that is not that people do whatever the hell they want in the privacy of their own bunks or homes.
In the army.
Right. That there is something to be said for the only reason the military on any level works is that everybody is the same. They're treated the same. This is the cohesive unit, it does not work when people start standing out.
Absolutely.
So,
it's,
I mean, not like anybody's, we can invade Canada.
You like bright colored hair would be bad in the military because you're going to get shot.
Uh-huh. Well, yeah, they'll definitely see you.
One would think.
The sniper's going to get you.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. I mean, it is.
Conform and comply. That's what the military is all about. No, it's not.
Yeah.
Well, we have to have a woke military. I mean, let's see how far this works. Let's see how well this goes. If that's the Canadian military, I'm thinking you and I with, a no agenda meetup crowd could just go take over Canada.
Oh, yeah. Well, they'd yell at us a lot and then say that, our words are well, that
they're not in a safe space.
What do they call them? Yeah. Your words are, they're violence. Words are violence. That's what I was looking for. Yeah.
Boodia Steed points out this is the same Canadian Army that did not allow turbans for the Sikhs.
Well, fuck the Sikhs. They're religious.
Oh, right. That's true. They don't like the religious people.
Yeah. No.
As long as you're anti-religious or not religious at all, you can do what you want.
Yeah, as long as you're non-religious, anti-religious, then you should be fine. But
if you do it in the name of religion, obviously you're a hateful person who needs to be expelled from the military.
Yeah.
Canadians, who knew?
I know, right? So I don't know, man. It seems to me like world's going to hell in a handbasket, as the saying goes. And we're just sitting on the Titanic deck chairs watching, everybody trying to make sure this ship gets steered into the iceberg.
Well, yeah, because they believe that crashing the system is the only way to fix the system.
And honestly, I'm kind of with them.
It's not a bad theory.
Yeah, I mean, the Great Reset can work for many different people. They're hoping, obviously, the Great Reset basically means that middle class is destroyed and rich people once again get to be much higher up than the plebes, than the serfs. Well, but there's nothing that says that has to be the case. They could definitely crash the other way around.
And we're finally getting back around to the original thought I had, which was the reason that the Ukraine thing is happening is not because of Ukraine. It's not because of Russia. It's because of the Great Reset. This is, look at the reason that we're being given. Oh, why is gasoline sky high? Why is the cost at the grocery store sky high? It's the Putin price hike.
Yeah.
This is why this is all being done, to cover what the real plan is, which is to get everybody off of fossil fuels, to not let you run your air conditioner because you're an evil person.
Yep.
If you want to run your air conditioner. This is what it's all about. I mean, somebody posted a map of the world with Ukraine in red and the rest of the countries in white or whatever it was. And they're like, tell me, all of this going on in the world is because of this one. I mean, I know it's not a super small area, but in the grand scheme of things, this one little area is responsible for all of these problems. Bullshit.
Yeah.
No, it's the Putin price hike. No. Bullshit.
Yeah, well, and I've seen multiple versions of cartoons showing that, Putin sure seems to be running most of the Western world because he's getting to dictate the price of gas. He's dictating the interest rates. He's dictating how much wheat is going to be available. I mean, it's like, holy shit, Putin is doing a hell of a job just running the whole Western world. But it's got to be then Biden that's running Russia.
Can we send him there then? That would be helpful. That would be helpful.
I mean, because we all know how wise and successful Biden is, and Russia's having just massive, increases in the value of their currency. All the predictions about Russia, problems haven't existed. There are more items available in Russia today than in Europe. If you go to the grocery store, it's amazingly they can afford to run their air conditioners and even to cool their swimming pools right now. But yet Germany is on the brink of complete deindustrialization. Companies like BMW and Mercedes are going to go under. Companies have been around since pre-World War II.
Yeah, there's no question about that.
Yeah. I mean, this is, man, I wish I still stayed in contact with one of the heiresses that I knew, but from Germany. But it is amazing that that it takes so little to go from Germany being the leading output force of Europe, from the country that was really running the EUification of Europe, selling every other country an idea of, do you want to be as successful as us? Well, you got to join the European Union.
Yeah, and how's that working out?
Right? I mean, I suspect that I don't know about countries leaving NATO because there's literally no provisions in the NATO charter to leave. Once you're in NATO, you're in NATO.
So it's like a really, really bad street gang.
It's kind of like the mafia. Yeah. Once you're in, you're in. There is no leaving. And unless you're dead.
Yeah. Huh?
So,
and a lot of people are going there.
But as far as Europe, there are provisions for leaving Europe, and I suspect there will be countries that end up leaving Europe.
Well, that's already, we saw that with Brexit. I think they're not going to be the only ones leaving the EU.
I suspect if Germany crashes the way that it's looking like it is, France is very likely to leave the EU because they don't want to be settled with the bills to rebuild Germany. And France has been smart enough, all other jokes aside, right? But France has been smart enough to keep their power nuclear. They don't have all the greenies that Germany has that want to get rid of nuclear power plants and go to Mother Earth and its wind energy for their sole means of power.
Well, this is the issue with what's going on here and everywhere when the green energy thing is. I'm fully behind finding the most earth-friendly, efficient way to power things. But you don't give up what's working until you find a better solution.
Yeah, totally.
Then that's the problem of what's going on here. Not that people are working at making this happen. If you could put up one windmill in the middle of the United States and run everybody's power, that's great.
Yep.
But that's not the case. And it's like, we're going to shut all these other things down, like coal plants, nuclear plants, and then go, we don't have enough.
Even if you don't say you're going to shut them down, here in Texas, effectively that happens because you're artificially subsidizing wind power, meaning, let's say that wind power costs 3 times as much as coal for the same amount of energy. But then the government comes in and pays 90% of that. And now wind power looks like it's about half the price of coal.
Right, you need to look at the true cost.
Yeah, the real cost without subsidies. And that's what's killing power production here in Texas. And again, my other co-host, Ben named Ben. God damn it.
The dude named Ben?
That's the guy. It's a running gag now that I can't pronounce his name.
It's Ben.
I even screwed up on No Agenda Social. So I've now talked to like 2 or 3 other Bens.
You've got the yips.
Not him.
Yeah.
So what we have is the coal and natural gas and all the other power production facilities have to compete with wind that is artificially lowered price due to taxes from the populace going to pay for it, which is bullshit. That, anytime that you're taking money from one group of people to make something cheap for another group of people, it's not actually cheap. It's a Ponzi scheme. And it should be called a Ponzi scheme because that's what it is. On its own, wind can never compete with other power sources. It's only available during limited hours. It's unavailable at random times. And even when it's fully operational, the cost of equipment to generate the same amount of energy from wind as from other sources like coal, gas, or for sure nuclear. Nuclear is by far the cheapest, although the regulation costs in the U.S. have driven nuclear to be more expensive. But wind is the most expensive power derivation. Even solar is cheaper than wind. And the reason, although it may not be given the cost of materials to make solar these days, but wind power requires it requires physical movement. It has parts that wear out. So they put up one of these giant windmills. Well, that lifespan of that windmill, and again, Ben would know better than I would, but it's under a decade. And then you got to put up another one.
Which is
and
rarely
you need to
talked
service
about.
them. You need to service them on a continuous basis. If you neglect the windmill for a year, its power production will either stop or go down to a trickle. There are a lot of components that are replaced on a yearly basis, according to Ben.
Which is
So-
also, you have to add that to the cost.
Absolutely. And the only way that they end up getting used, because Texas has more windmills now than the rest of the world, not combined, but any individual place, more than California, which started the whole crazy craze, more than any other country that has windmills. And it's stupid. I wish all of them would just get toppled over with some big hurricane or something, because this is the stupidest thing that Texas can possibly do. So Germany doing likewise, equally stupid, if not more so, because I don't think they have as much wind.
Well, it's just ignoring the fact that it isn't efficient. It isn't cost effective. The windmills, okay, there's the moving parts. The solar panels, I think, if I'm not mistaken, also wear out. So,
They do.
you know,
They get progressively less efficient.
so right out of the box, yeah, you're getting X amount of power out of it. If that is, as you just said, going progressively down from the minute you started up,
Yep.
then that also has to be replayed. And this is not like a set it and forget it thing.
No. And I'll tell you, back in the 70s, before solar panels really became efficient enough to even use, there were water heating systems that utilized your roof. So essentially, you'd have these black panels on your roof that would heat up from sunlight, and you would have instead of a water heater, or maybe in addition to a water heater, you would have a pump that would pump water up to your roof to then go, along these black roof panels, these water blocks, if you will.
Right.
Kind of like the
utilize that
inverse
heat.
of,
Right.
yeah, it trying to cool down the roof and warm up the water. And as a result, you end up having basically super cheap or free hot water.
That's how that
Because-
CPU cooling works.
It's exactly like CPU cooling works. The downside, of course, it's only available when the sun is out. So you're
Right.
limited to about 12 hours a day or
You want a
less.
hot shower in the middle of the night, you got a problem.
If it's cloudy, you have warm water instead of hot water. You're dependent on the availability of bright sunlight. So like this probably would work just fine in New Mexico or someplace, or in Mexico itself, right? Places where you're in the desert and you have constant sunlight, very few clouds. Then at least for half the day, not at night, but for half the day, you would have free hot water.
The dream on all of this is a way to capture and harness this energy that you could capture so much during the day that you could become, 24 hours. Even when the sun goes down, you would have enough in reserve.
Yeah.
But battery technology
absolutely.
is what, although there was an article today that somebody created a battery that uses regular sand instead of lithium, which could be very interesting for situations like this.
Well, regular sand is mostly silica.
Well, there you go. But there's a lot of it around until people start
Yeah.
using it, I guess, for batteries.
Well, we've been using it for glass and for computer parts forever.
They'll always
plenty
make
of it.
more.
It's a very abundant element for sure. But, lithium isn't that rare. Lithium is relatively abundant. It's just not cheap to extract.
There's
And
got
there's
to be a better way.
there are certainly concentrations of lithium in different countries. Some countries get much luckier in this than others. The farmers in the Netherlands
Oh, they're
getting
mad.
shot at. They're
Yeah.
getting shot at by the police.
Well,
I say let them starve. So if you're a farmer in the Netherlands, fuck those people. Why would you feed somebody shooting at you?
it's going to be a.
What are they going to do when there's no produce in the stores? Because God knows,
Well, then more people
have
will
their
be
produce.
shooting.
Well, there maybe there will be more shooting, but I suspect, the farmers have way more power than they've been exercising, and they need to keep standing up. I'm totally on the side of the farmers on this one. Adam will attest to this. I've watched farm porn videos from the Netherlands. That's not like, horses and things. That's watching farming equipment. I know where you were thinking.
No, I wasn't, but thank
That
you,
were
for
for
suggesting
definitely,
that.
yeah, well, you were definitely thinking that. I can tell. But that was a there's some beautiful videos done with quadcopters flying over tulip harvests and things like that. Very cool. So I've watched those many times. And so trying to defarm the Netherlands, which historically is a country that has its biggest natural resource, I think, is water. It has plenty of water. It has good soil. They can farm there. And trying to say, yeah, there's nitrogen pollution, so we shouldn't be farming, is insane. It is crazy. While there may be nitrogen pollution, and what they're talking about is nitrites and nitrates, not nitrogen, the gas, the element nitrogen, which some people are confusing. But nitrates are a side effect of predominantly animal farming. It's one of the waste products, and it's a waste product from animal farming, but it's a fertilizer product for all other types of farming. And the problem, this has happened in California as well, is that when you have large amounts of farmland close to residential areas, you have that nitrogen getting into the water. You get nitrates in the water. And that is definitely problematic. So the solution, it seems to me, for the Netherlands is not, hey, we have nitrates in the water, let's stop farming. It is, hey, how about we get some better water purification technologies here?
Pure water's good.
They could literally do desalination using the seawater that is on the entire northern coast of the country and all the dams that they have, and provide clean, totally pure drinking water from the ocean for their entire populace, and not have to get drinking water out of streams and rivers that might have runoff from the farmland. That would be a very good solution of being able to continue farming and have better water supply. The issue here is the water contamination. It is not farmers.
Yeah, I wouldn't think it was the farmers. I mean, they're doing God's work.
But what their solution is to eliminate like 70% of farms in the Netherlands. That's the goal.
This again is the goals are being made in a way to push people towards things they don't want to do, like eat bugs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, bug farming. That's much better than cow farming.
I was just looking up our ComEd bill. I haven't looked at this, so I can't tell you exactly when this jumped. Except, I mean, I looked this up when I was doing the Ethereum mining, which was maybe a year ago, which it was like 7.5 cents per kilowatt hour or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And now it is over 9.5. So that's a pretty big jump. That's like a 20% jump, which explains why the
cents per kilowatt hour, or 9.5 cents of Ethereum.
No, of that is the supply charge now. Because
So
I remember
the
looking.
electricity went up by 20%, is what you're saying.
Yeah, it seems that if my math is correct, that's about right.
Mm.
Plus taxes and fees and all that, which makes our monthly electric bill $259.
Well, it's still cheaper than mine, but
Well, yeah,
I'm
you're in
running
the middle of
AC
hell.
all the time.
Right. Well, there was an article on one of these leftist leaning, obviously, tech sites, which I don't even think you have to mention that. If you say tech site, it's almost always left.
It's obviously left leaning. Yeah,
They're like, things you could stop using to save money, and they're like, oh, your central air costs about 56 cents an hour to run, and I'm like, 24 hours a day, baby.
Yeah.
That's what I'm podcasting for, to be able to pay to run the air conditioning. That's about it.
Has anyone contributed?
No, there's been some, yeah. We can thank those people if you'd like.
Well, I figured if they're paying for your electric bill, you ought to.
Right, because if you stop paying, if you stop donating, the electric goes off, and then, hell, and you can't do a podcast.
Exactly.
But our buddy Sir Nubbin comes in, and he's a big donor. on other shows.
Big donor.
Came in with $26.25, and he came in with a very confusing note. I don't know. Maybe you can break this down for me. Maybe the troll room at noagendastream.com can help me with this. Understand this has to be code in some way, shape, or form. The note read, and I quote, "Sir Gene rocks," end quote. I don't understand what that means.
I don't either. I mean, I don't really play the rock and roll pre-show. That's kind of your thing. So what is he referring to?
I don't know. Sir Gene rocks. So I'm confused.
Does he think we sound alike, and he's heard the rock and roll pre-show and he thinks I'm on that?
Maybe he does. He's a big donor on the rock and roll pre-show.
And
we appreciate Sir Nubbin. And obviously he likes your half here.
I'll make sure I play songs you like on the next one there, Sir Nubbin.
I will say that No Agenda Social, every now and then you have to do the blatant post asking for people to listen to all of your podcasts if you have more than one, as I do. And everybody's pretty positive about all the shows. They're just like, it's just a slightly different. Everybody seems to think Bemrose and I have the best back and forth on Grumpy Old Bens, but it seems like you're
you've been
a close
married
second
for 5
now.
years. Of course you do.
Yeah, it's a little longer. But you were coming in as a close
Longer
second.
than 5? How many years?
No, it's only been a couple of years. Less than 2, I think.
No, you were doing Grumpy Old Bens more than 2 years.
No. I mean,
I've heard it more than 2 years.
We very quickly went to 2 shows a week, which made
that's right. You did say that I sent you a message when you first started saying, hey, I should be a guest on here.
And didn't you say you never heard of Grumpy Old Bens a little earlier in the show?
Yeah, I did. That's correct. I think you mispronounced it is what that was.
It's come back here. When was
clearly a mispronunciation?
Episode number 1 was April 12th, 2019.
Okay.
So 3 years.
3. Okay. Well, that sounds more realistic.
But people overall in No Agenda Social like all the shows, including this one, even though they call it the Russian Apologist Hour.
Well, only one Polish gold thief would call it that.
And you are bringing the backing for it. So if they just don't want to believe what's out there in the world, if they don't want to believe the news from vetted sources, then I don't know.
News deniers, all of them.
Yes, right. Our buddy Chuda Kookie.
How dare you be a news denier?
Chuda Kookie coming in with his $10 monthly, and that's appreciated. As well as a Johnny Hipwell with his 333 says, unrelenting, please. Johnny from Canada.
Nice. Well, you appreciate all those because you're getting them. But yeah.
And net just Boostergram.
Guys.
Yeah. I love Unnerving with Danny Kaye and Gene Autry. If Gene was Gene Autry, he'd be so much cooler with the cowboy hat. Well, you have to keep the beard.
I have
a
cowboy hat.
See, there you go. We need photos.
There's a photo of me. I have photos. Have I not shared photos of me in the cowboy hat?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
There's No Agenda Social is good for so many things. I mean, you post so many links. That would be great.
As soon as we get $1,000 donation, I'll be happy to post a photo of me in a cowboy hat.
Or not, if you would prefer, if you get to the $1,000 level and just be like, never release that photo. Whichever you prefer. But
I think there's a photo of me that I can probably scrounge up wearing a cowboy hat and a cowboy shirt with a
Mo Betta shirt, one of those.
With a 32 ounce fillet in front of me on the plate.
Oh, and you down that baby.
Of course I down that baby. Are you kidding?
Make that big old, was it ribeye, tomahawk, something good.
Yeah, I don't like ribeye.
What are you into?
Filet mignon.
Oh, come on. A fillet's like a grilled steak.
Not when it's 36 ounces. It's not.
That's a big damn fillet.
Mm-hmm.
Did you just say, like, give me the whole tenderloin and just make it?
Yeah.
Just make a tenderloin.
Well, this was at a restaurant, but yeah, I do that. I buy tenderloins.
You just make them whole, and like that's just like one
Did
steak.
we not talk about this like a year ago? I could have sworn
we talked about you buying beef tenderloin. Yes, I don't know if we ever talked about if you just consume them all as one big piece.
Well, no. I mean, a tenderloin's about 5-6 pounds, dude. The tenderloin is not one piece.
You can do
I'm
that
not going to eat 5 pounds in one sitting.
Oh, come on, 5 pounds of fillet.
I can eat 2 pounds of steak in one sitting, but I don't think I could eat more than that. And I sure as hell don't want to be throwing up steak.
No, that would be wasteful.
Totally wasteful. So you only eat as much as you can, which is, 2 pounds or less.
Support
and
the
typically
show.
fillets are like freaking, the girl ones you're talking about are 6 ounces. That's like, a
Little
third of a
filet,
pound.
a half a cup of cottage cheese, and boom, you've got a meal.
I like cottage cheese.
It's not
You
bad.
still, when's the last, I know you're not doing it right now. When's the last time you did lemon?
It's been a while. I need to pick up another bag. I keep forgetting now. Once you get off of it, it's you kind of like, you forget.
Okay.
I need to get the blender back up in the place I need it to be. So I remember like, let's do the lemon thing again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But we are a value for value podcast. If you'd like to help us out, and we hope you do, unrelenting.show. And I was really excited the other day when it comes down to the Satoshis in the Lightning system,
Mm-hmm.
because I went to up my NordVPN. It was expiring. And I know I talked about this over on Grumpy Old Ben's, but not everybody listens to that.
Not everybody, no.
And you could always pay with Bitcoin. But when I went to pay with Bitcoin, there was a little slider that's like, would you like to pay with the Lightning? And I was like, hell yeah, I would.
Huh.
They took Lightning payment. It was like 2 years of
Really?
NordVPN with a terabyte of online storage for 2 years. And it was like $100. And the Lightning payment processed within like milliseconds. It was beautiful,
Mm-hmm.
which is the biggest problem with the Bitcoin payments are like, oh, wait, it could take up to an hour for this to process.
Yeah, that is an issue. It's always been an issue because Bitcoin is, it has to go on the blockchain, which takes time. It is not instant, which I think is the main reason that Lightning was created and named Lightning.
Because quick.
It is as quick as lightning. It just kind of happens.
And there was a coin something, or it wasn't obviously not Coinbase. There is a service you can sign up for. I got an account off to see what they charge.
Yep.
But it's like if people just start accepting that for payment for various things online, that would be really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Comic strip blogger just sent a boostergram 1533. Careful, Gene wants to steal Alaska and give it to Russia.
That's true. He's right about that.
Okay,
Yes.
so we do
I
want to
think
give away
that
Alaska.
There is some proof to say that the purchase contract of Alaska was never actually signed.
Ooh,
Yes.
so you want that land back for the
There are
motherland?
no signed copies of the purchase agreement in either US or in Russia. So that was a theoretical deal that was never truly consummated. Alaska is still part of Russia.
So that means those Americans up there,
I
they
still
might not
find
be
it
Americans.
freaking hilarious that CSB is listening.
CSB loves your show. And
Mhm.
Bully Steed, 3333 sats and Ride the Lightning. And actually just got this from the post office yesterday. Forgot to open
I
it
can
up.
hear paper. You sound like Rush Limbaugh now.
Also from Bully
Nice sound
Steed.
effect.
That's a $6.96 check from Bully Steed for the show. So we'll add that to today. Yes. Okay. See, now you finally got the sound effects working. Congratulations. It only took Gene, an hour and a half today to get that working.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
But thank you, Bully Steed. And
I found the problem.
and
I had the headphones plugged into or set to the wrong mix, and I was sending you just my microphone, not the full mix.
oh, see, we were just getting the full Gene experience.
Well, you still are, but now you're also getting the sound effect experience.
Audio routing is not easy, but
Actually, it is easy. Even the musicians can do it.
I think the fact that Comic Strip Blogger listens is a testament to the fact that I bring a great portion of the show, and he can happily listen to my part, and then he hate listens to yours, and it just
Mhm.
equals out in the end.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's that probably has got a little bit of truth to it. I think there's a little bit of hate listening going on there as well.
And
But But this
JCD
is
on No
also-
Agenda yesterday, he poked the bear though. He poked CSB.
did he? What do you say?
They were talking.
I'm as usual. I'm 2 episodes behind.
They were talking about the art, of course, and Adam said that JCD really liked one of the comic strip blogger things, but Adam hates CSB, so of course they couldn't use it. And JCD said he loved his Slavic brother. That was, sorry, there was.
Nice.
Bemrose is talking about putting together a bingo card for the art segment. And one of the boxes definitely has to be mentioned CSB.
That's funny. Yeah.
It's a constant. There's no question.
Yeah. No, and I think CSB mainly, rather than liking you or hating me, enjoys hearing his name be on the live stream.
Well, he likes to get his shows promoted, and that's what these shows on the No Agenda stream get, is a little bit of a kickback from everybody else.
Well, although it's not really his show. I mean, he's not really on it.
He writes it, though. He's the producer and writer.
He's the writer. He may be the producer, but,
Gwyff is the performer. Gwyff is the talent.
Gwyff is the talent. So if you want to listen to Gwyff, you can listen to the show that CSB writes. But, ultimately, to have a podcast, you need to be on the podcast. It's like, you don't have a podcast named the Joe Schmo podcast that Tim Pool is on. You have the Tim Pool podcast.
Yeah, but to be fair, Tim Pool would read anything you sent him for the right amount of money.
Well, he definitely reads the same VPN crap that you do. So, yeah.
Well, I don't even read those because we don't even have
we don't even have a sponsor, but yet you're still reading it.
I just used the service.
How about how awesome the service is because they accept Lightning? That's a fucking ad.
I do love the Lightning thing. We accept Lightning. They accept Lightning. Bully Steed, who just boostagrammed and sent us a check, says, please speak about Sergine's post on No Agenda Social, showing how EU breaking up Ukraine and how the Swiss got the Baltic coast. Somebody is obviously following you.
Oh, yeah, that was
and
funny.
Paying attention.
So it's basically,
I mean, I'm not, but Bully Steed is, so that's a plus.
I know you're not. You're not totally doing that. Yeah, so I posted a map of Ukraine in different regions with different European flags on there. This is not a funny meme. This is actually a slide from a conference. I can't remember which of the conferences they had.
Oh, right. This was the one about, you said a bunch of one world order guys are breaking up Ukraine.
Yeah.
See, I did see that post.
Well, or somebody just said that in the troll room. That
would be easy too, but no, I saw that one. I don't see a lot, but I saw that one.
Yeah. So the context, and I'm totally trolling here, which is why I didn't put the context in there. But I can tell you the context on here is that these are the regions that they've decided will be the partner zones for the rebuilding of Ukraine, and which country will be partnering with which region of Ukraine and providing the funds and the manpower for rebuilding. And what was funny about it was that Poland, instead of getting, Western Ukraine, something that's nearby, something that used to be part of Poland anyway, they're on the very opposite side in the easternmost Ukraine.
So they have to go rebuild that area?
In Donetsk. Yeah. So Poland has to rebuild Donetsk.
Isn't that the most dangerous area?
Damaged. I don't know about dangerous, but it's the one that's been the most damaged by the Nazis in Ukraine. Because that's what they've been shelling is Donetsk. Lugansk and Donetsk. But
so they got scammed into taking on the worst part.
Poland is complaining like you wouldn't believe about this because it's not fair that they have to go and partner up and help rebuild Donetsk. This is all like post the Zelensky victory. When they're just about to capture all of Russia, now everyone can focus on rebuilding Ukraine as, I guess you guys know him as Zelensky, but the letter Z has been banned, so I refer to him as Olensky.
No, that was Saul Alinsky, was the guy that Obama taught the guy that wrote the book that he dedicated to the devil about socialism and all of those kind of practices.
Well, he was Ukrainian, so there you go.
Saul Alinsky was Ukrainian. Okay, makes sense. No, I don't.
Yeah.
I pick up little things here and there, but now all things are starting to make sense.
All things are making sense. So yeah, this is creating quite the controversy because the Polish government is totally not interested in rebuilding Eastern Ukraine, even like post victory, and assuming that now, Ukraine is fully liberated from Russia, even though the people that actually live in Ukraine are waving Russian flags and bringing food to the soldiers as they're coming in to liberate them from the Nazis. But it is just more Europeans stumbling over their own feet and trashing their economies, which Europe was always. You know how people say, well, most Americans are living like one paycheck away from bankruptcy.
Oh, yeah, paycheck to paycheck. And with about huge mortgages and usually about 10, 20,000 in credit card bills.
Well, and Europe has been living that way for decades. And the crazy thing about it is not only are they one paycheck away from bankruptcy, which is becoming very evident right now, and the UK's government is just the first one to fall. The German government's probably going to fall. The Dutch government's probably going to fall. There's going to be a lot of governments that end up falling in Europe over this year, the next 6 months. But yeah, they have been living one paycheck away from bankruptcy, and they're spending the money that they do have with Russia because all of Europe somehow have managed, except for France being the crazy exception here, but the rest of Europe is dependent on energy imports from Russia. It's like, I didn't even realize that many European countries couldn't supply their own energy any other way. I thought they were still buying energy from, the Middle East, from Saudi Arabia and all these other places. Apparently not. Apparently everybody's just sucking down Russian gas.
Well, and I didn't understand there was a report that the United States was sending millions of barrels of oil from the reserve over to Europe and China.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Somebody will have to explain that one.
Well, so I don't know how accurate this is, but this is what I've heard on a couple different channels is somebody in the Biden administration decided that a good way to fuck Russia would be to lower the price of oil. Or natural gas, well, energy in general, lower the price by dumping, kind of with what Japan was accused of doing with us, and then China's been accused of doing with the U.S., by dumping product for cheap. And so they tapped the strategic reserves of the U.S. and then sold off a bunch of that at lower than market prices, in the hope that this would start driving prices down overall and screw Russia out of the high profits that it's seeing. And instead what happened, of course, is that China said, ooh, I'll buy that, and bought out the majority of it. Some still managed to go to Europe, but effectively, we just depleted a good chunk of our strategic reserves that are meant not for peacetime. They're meant for natural disasters or wartime. The whole point of having these reserves in the U.S. is not to play with. It's not to try and affect pricing. It is to make sure that there's still a supply here in case of either a natural disaster or wartime. Something that is beyond predictable factors and not really easily controlled. And the Biden administration is treating this like it's their piggy bank. Like, oh, well, we could just go and sell that.
Right. Like it's a pawn to play in this game. And it didn't work. That's the, really
Biden's
the tragic
got the lowest approval rating of any president, including Jimmy Carter at this point.
Uh-huh. Even amongst Democrats.
Even amongst Democrats, but overall lower than any past president ever. And so he's gotten notorious at this point in his administration, but they don't care. They don't care. They know he's in there for another 2 years. They can do whatever they want. Nothing's going to happen. They're probably already thinking that there's a chance of losing both the House and the Senate. Now, some people think that it'll be a complete blowout and the Senate and the House will go full on Republican. I've been saying for a long time, I just don't see it because I fully expect there to be election. What was the phrase? Election
improprieties?
No. They had a nice phrase for it. The Democrats did. It was reinforcement or something like that. It was essentially ensuring that the elections go the right way. And so I think a lot of these races will be much closer than what people on the right are assuming is going to be the case, because there will be plenty of people willing to do, quote, whatever it takes, unquote, to ensure that their guy wins. So don't assume that there will be a blowout in the House or the Senate. I don't think there might be slim margins in both. But remember, those slim margins don't even matter because most of the Republicans are rhinos.
Yeah,
Like,
there's
literally
no question
over
there.
half, over 50% of people with an R next to their name are rhinos. And at this point, every time I get a mailing from one of my local rhino politicians here for Texas, I just reply back with, enjoy your last term.
You know, I've always said it would be kind of interesting if you knew how to play this game right. You could retake a state like California or Illinois by having a bunch of conservatives. Once you realize they're conservatives in high school, college, like go out there, act liberal, act really liberal, win your local seats, win the governorship, win the House seats, and then the state Senate. And then after we've gotten y'all in, then you go, yeah, actually, we're not liberal at all.
Yeah, and that's literally what the rhinos do all the time. They are liberal, and they pretend to be more conservative than they actually are.
They get elected.
And they get in office. They have an R next to their name, but they vote with the Democrats.
I believe
that is very typical because most conservatives don't want to lie from the get-go.
Right. It's hard to keep that
where
up.
their beliefs are. They want to say, look, this is why I believe in it. If you believe in it too, vote for me. Whereas the liberals know that it's a strongly conservative area. We're not going to get elected unless we lie. Okay,
that's just fine. Lie. Let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, how many clips of Joe Biden do we have with him being pro-life? How many clips of him do we have talking about how he's not going to put the miners who are mining coal out of work? How many clips of him do we have talking about his support for Detroit and for the auto industry?
I don't think Joe knows where he is. I think if the Republicans do win big at the midterms, that Joe Biden's days are numbered. I would bet he will find a health reason to step down. Now, that leaves Kamala, which is not good, but I could see them wanting to do that for the simple reason of, okay, Kamala, even with Democrats, total train wreck. Totally. They may want to give her a year and a half or so to try to prove she can act presidential and hope that maybe they'd be able to hold that. But because they know Biden's not going to win again.
Right.
Now, maybe Kamala, if you give her a vice president that's not totally woke and insane. But that's a lot to ask in the Democrat Party right now.
I mean, she's just crazy. I don't know any other way to describe it. Her crazy laugh and her inability to put a sentence together.
Oh my God. She was up here in Highland Park after the shooting and like, well, everybody's going to take this seriously. Like you're taking it serious because you were forced to take it seriously. The serious situation. Seriously. Yeah. It's like, what are you saying?
She, I don't know if it's brain damage from drug use.
It could
be. Maybe she's been roofied too many times by
and
Willie
I will
Brown.
say, I think there's I'm all for, because I know there's a lot of people in the No Agenda audience and our audience that smoke pot. I'm fine with people doing that, but I don't know if I want the leader of the free world doing it.
Beyond smoking pot, though.
They could be.
She's got something more serious happening here.
You know, and there's a difference, I guess, between doing it recreationally and, you know, on the weekends and then going to work for the week. There's a big difference. You know, it's like drinking, same thing. You don't want a drunk in the White House either.
Exactly. Dude, you don't want a drunk working for you. I don't care. Again, I don't care what people do in their privacy in their home. But what I do care about is when somebody has a job to do they should not be inebriated by any means while they're doing that job.
Right.
Now, Adam will say that all his podcasts have been
But
done
he's a
while
creative,
smoking pot.
right? And he's a creative guy, and it's a creative work, and it's fine for that.
Well, and I'll go beyond that. This is also why Adam doesn't have a job. He doesn't work for somebody. He works for himself.
This is why he doesn't have the nuclear codes.
Well, that too, right? But it's a lot easier to do something just for yourself, and even better if people like what you're doing. Than to try and
Adam Curry is the Willie Nelson of podcasting.
Yeah, probably. I don't see a problem with saying that. Willie's well known for being good at what he does and for smoking pot.
Yeah.
And Adam is also well known for being good at what he does and smoking pot.
That's it. And they're both Texas, so there you go. Now, anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and
Willie relocated to Texas. He didn't start there.
Where is he from originally? I don't remember.
Well, he came through Nashville, and it was him and Waylon that decided Nashville sucked, so they both ended up moving to Austin.
But I thought Willie was here originally.
I don't think so.
He wasn't. Oh, okay.
He went to. You see the early pictures of Willie Nelson. He is like straight laced without the. It's like
well, he was more like Johnny Cash look.
He was very straight laced. Hell of a songwriter. He was born in Abbott, Texas.
There you go. So he is a local.
He is a Texan, yes.
I mean, I think
he went
Abbott
to Nashville,
is like a little tiny town just outside of Austin.
But then he went to Nashville, but then came back and relocated his base to Austin.
Well, he was traveling for a long time. He was married a lot of different women. four of them, I believe.
One of them, tied him up in the bed and beat him with a baseball bat. I mean,
a lot of people like that.
There was some stories.
He's got 7 kids. I mean, Willie's been through it. He's done a lot.
And one of really
still plays the same guitar.
Yeah, well, Trigger Baby. That is one. The amount of work. I think there's a documentary about it. The amount of work.
I've watched the documentary. Yeah,
that's gone into that guitar.
Yeah,
but when you hear Willie Nelson, it's very similar to like Mark Knopfler for me. The minute you hear the guitar, you know who's playing it.
Mm-hmm.
And Willie, I mean, okay, it's because of the type of guitar that he plays is a little unique, but Willie's style, and he does not get the credit he deserves for the vocal phrasing either. He's very much Sinatra-esque in his vocal phrasings. You can't get much better than Willie. I mean, I remember going to see Willie when I was like 10 years old or so. I wondered why the crowd smelled so strange, but now I know.
Right? Yeah, you do kind of wonder that. I remember the first time I smelled pot, which is probably in the 70s. And I was like, who the fuck is burning rubber tires? What the hell are they thinking? There's a big music event here. We're all sitting here listening to this band, and some idiot nearby is burning rubber tires. What's going on?
Yeah, it was not a pleasant smell. It was a unique smell at the very least.
Yeah. But
that was the great thing. I think about Willie, and still is, as far as I know, the crowds that he brings in, all types, from accountants to just hippies to bikers. And everybody has a good time and gets along.
Yep.
Because you have that one thing in common.
Music. I always liked his music.
He's a hell of a writer. He is. If you've never caught Willie, you missed out. I've seen him a bunch of times.
Mm-hmm.
And just a hell of a band, too. And the fact that he looks, maybe he's finally starting to look a little older, but he went through a phase from between like 40 to 80 where he didn't change at all. Like
40 to 80?
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
The look.
From when he got kind of white in his beard and stuff. Yeah.
He always looked like he's
old. You can
always
kind of tell by his braids because I don't know if people realize this. If you're shaving all the time, you don't notice it. But when you have like a long beard, the way I do, the color of your hair changes. So it's not like you go from brown hair to white hair overnight. The color, if you look at a long hair, whether it's on your head or on your beard or anywhere else, you can see that the change in coloration over time. And so, like on my beard, I got plenty of brown hair towards the tips of the beard.
So you could remember those halcyon days.
Yeah, well, and then you trace that single hair back, and you're like, oh, like 4 inches up, it kind of starts going gray, and then like 8 inches up, it's pure white.
That was when we start doing the podcast.
Pretty much, yeah.
It's with straight white. The stress,
Exactly.
it'll kill you. Podcasting is not for the faint of heart.
That's funny to hear stuff like that. Life will kill you ultimately.
Oh, yeah. That's nobody
You
gets out alive.
You want to die? Don't live.
Pretty much. And that is where a lot of this stuff gets lost in the shuffle, where people want to start fighting about crazy stuff. And it's like, well, how do you want to live? That's the question. It's like, will what you're doing kill you? I mean, there's a lot of people, I'm assuming, that think it's crazy for the people that voluntarily go into the military. I know a lot of people think race car drivers are crazy, although the safety has gotten a lot better. It's still, you're doing a job that you know things could go horribly wrong in an instant, yet they still do it and love it because that's living, not, you know, if you just want to sit in a room and hide your whole life, well, okay, you might live a little longer, although probably not because there's other health problems associated with that. But this concept of no, we have to clear the country of all guns. I mean, there was the former prime minister of Japan was assassinated in Japan, an area where guns
I think he's technically not dead yet, but
no, I thought he was. Let's see.
I thought that he was in a coma.
Dies after being shot.
Oh, does it say dies? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Fine. Last I saw was he was in a coma.
Yeah. I mean, this is the kind of insanity that goes on even in Japan, who was disarmed after, you know, we dropped the bomb on him. They do not allow handguns
from my
at all.
understanding, it was a shotgun.
Yes, which shotguns are allowed.
Yeah.
Which
shotguns, ironically, or maybe not ironically, I don't know, the shotguns rarely used in the United States for mass murder. Much easier to commit mass murder with a shotgun. I really don't understand why they're not as popular for mass murderers.
Because the news pushes those AR-15s, so everybody thinks that's what you want.
It's really not. The AR-15 uses a fairly small round. The reason that the U.S. military adopted that round, the 223 or the 5.56 round, depending on which measurement you use, is actually in analysis of post-World War II. It was determined that it is better to wound the man and take 2 to 3 people out that are rescuing him than to kill a man who will be left on the battlefield. So if you want to maximize the amount of your enemy not shooting back at you, you have to go for wounds, not deaths. And the best way to do that is by using what amounts to a 22 caliber bullet, which is what the AR-15 uses. It's that diameter. It's slightly larger than the small 22s that maybe people have shot, but it's only longer. It's not wider. So it's a 223 bullet. And the intent of that, using a round like that, was twofold. One, more wounding than killing. And 2, more rounds, because it's lighter, to be able to be carried by an infantryman. So because in World War II and previous wars, all countries use traditional hunting rifle rounds, which are significantly bigger. Like in the US, it would have been a 30-30 round, which I think the M1 rifles used. And so there was these two problems were solved by going to a small round. So what that means is if you're using a rifle that is chambered in the same round, like an AR-15 is, you're basically you're trying to be a mass murderer by using a gun and rounds that were utilized by the military not to kill, but to maim. you're making your job harder. If you use either larger rounds that are more typical of hunting rounds, most of those shots would be death shots. They wouldn't be wounds that could be treated. Kyle Rittenhouse took out that guy that was attacking him, his bicep. Had that been a larger caliber round, he would have probably taken out his entire arm and cracked the bone. And, the guy would have bled out very quickly and been dead. Because it was a smaller round coming out of an AR-15, he certainly caused physical trauma, but that trauma didn't lead to the death of that person. And with a shotgun, you have two options. You can have an even larger size projectile at a slug, which is usually a 1 ounce lead, bullet shaped, or potentially a big round ball bearing shaped round. That will put a very large hole into somebody. And even if you don't hit a major organ, the size of the hole, the wound channel that you're causing, is going to bleed out that person very quickly. Very, very high probability of death, even if you're not accurate. Or you could be shooting buckshot, which are BBs basically, that are packed into a single round. And there you have a much wider cone of death, because it's the idea there is it's not going to go as far and it's not going to be as accurate, but there's a lot more rounds. So you're basically shooting the equivalent of 8 or maybe even up to 12 bullets that are about the size of what an AR-15 has.
Well, it's spray and pray just with one shot.
Yeah. And there's not a whole lot of prey happening, because at the distances you're talking about in all of these mass murdering situations, you're very close. The only one that was from a large distance was the Vegas shooting, which really didn't seem like a mass murder situation, but more of a gun deal gone bad situation. There was a lot of inconsistencies, a lot of weird things with that Vegas shooting.
Right. Until this kid in Highland Park who went up on a roof.
Yeah. Well, from the roof, how tall of a roof?
I think it was like a 3-story building.
Yeah. I mean, even that 3-story building, you're close enough with a shotgun, you're going to kill people.
True. You might have had better coverage.
You might have had much more people getting hit. The other thing is that this latest shooting is he did not use an AR-15, even though that was what was reported initially. What he used, it looks like, was actually kind of a cool rifle, but not a horribly good quality one that is foldable.
Trying to sneak it in? Well, I mean, he dressed in ladies' clothes, so we're right back to Canada. It's made by Keltec.
They are known for making mediocre quality, but very innovative guns. They've always are coming up with interesting concepts for guns. Like they had a pump action shotgun that had like two. I don't think it had 2 barrels. I think it had 1 barrel, but 2 different chambers for storing rounds. So somewhat unusual. But anyway, the bottom line is, yes, if you're going to be at a big distance, like the Vegas shooter or the shooter at the mass murder in Texas here in University of Texas, many, many years ago, then you want that distance. But even still, you would do much better using a hunting rifle, which nobody ever talks about banning, than you would in an AR-15 style gun. And there are variants, like the AR-10 uses larger size rounds from a gun that looks visually very similar to an AR-15. Well, so you could go that route. But I think mostly people buy these guns because they look cool.
Well, that's
not because they're actually the best tool for the job.
Right. Well, it's because that's what the news told them they should be using.
Well, and movies, and that's what the military uses. So you're thinking like, oh, that'll be cool. good luck buying the new military guns, the new Army contract that SIG Arms, for their new hybrid rifle. First of all, the gun right now is going for about $5,000.
Damn.
In the civilian version. I got to imagine the military version is even more expensive, but in the civilian version, they're going for about $5,000, which is, single shot. So there's no auto fire. And the ammunition that it uses right now is not self-reloadable and very hard to get because it uses a relatively new technology, bimetal cartridge that has a much higher PSI pressure inside the cartridge. So the cartridge can't just be a typical brass cartridge. So good luck emulating and LARPing that gun. It's going to be very expensive, at least for a while. Maybe 10, 15 years from now, those prices will have come down. Or maybe the inflation will have made it so a $5,000 gun is what isn't totally normal.
Maybe.
Because that's what all the guns are.
Sig Sauer makes nice stuff. I've got the P320, which is the civilian version of the military pistol.
That is too funny. That's exactly the same gun that dude named Ben just talked about buying.
Nice. It's a nice pistol.
Mm-hmm.
My wife, because she has small hands, has a little P365. I mean, some of these guns look like toys, man. I mean,
they do.
It is kind of scary. You got to know what's real and what's
the gun industry is clearly appealing to children by making guns looking like toys.
Yes, obviously.
Yeah, don't be spreading those rumors, man.
Obviously. You should have a gun. You should learn how to use it. You should treat it with the respect that it deserves.
Yeah.
But you deserve to be able to protect yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I get maybe there are people who wouldn't want to carry it around, but having one at home, if somebody breaks in your house, the police are a few minutes away and you might not have that kind of time.
The police are half an hour away. Let's face it.
If you're lucky, yeah.
And their real job, as we saw with the mass shooting in the school previously, is not to actually stop the shooter. Their job is to collect evidence after the fact.
Well, yeah, so we can prosecute or not.
Or not. As the case may be.
Like this kid in Highland Park, I don't think there's any question that he's a psych case.
Yeah.
And I'm just surprised. I guess he jumped into his mom's car, drove to Wisconsin, ditched his cell phone up in Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
But he was planning on going to shoot up a parade or something in Wisconsin as well. And then just decided to turn around and come home, which it's like, you're going to get caught, right? I mean, I don't know the whole turning around and coming home thing. But again, psych case. So
I think the only question with the mass shooting is whether you die afterwards by either suicide or police, or whether you survive and are in prison for life.
Right.
Or maybe, I don't know how many states have death penalty these days.
Illinois doesn't. So, I mean, again, you're taking away the stick.
Yeah. But either way, it's like you can't, it's totally different to do a mass shooting like that than, like, I remember the DC sniper that we had, who was trying to stay hidden, and he wasn't shooting up, dozens of people all at once. He was shooting
cars,
one person at a time. Yeah. And it turned out to be a black dude. So that was not,
not good for the narrative.
Not good for the narrative. Exactly. You can't have a story about the black guy with it. You can't have a story about a kid who's a fan of Nancy Pelosi and has face tattoos with a gun. Like, these are counter narrative stories.
Has anybody seen on one mainstream media site that, he followed Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi on Twitter?
Mm-hmm. They're spewing hate, and that convinced them to go shoot people up. Hey, one last thing I want to talk about before we wrap up is the whole Georgia
Guidestones. Yeah.
Yeah. What's your take?
I had never heard of them before, so I have very little to say about them.
Well, I've definitely heard of them, and they were. There's always a big question as to exactly who paid for and or built them, which I don't know that we've ever found out. I think they've been around since the 80s, maybe. It's been a long time. I can't remember exactly, but
an interesting art project, no 80s. Question. Very
Stonehenge. Stonehenge. The idea was that these are going to survive and guide the next generation post-nuclear war into what to do. And of course, they couldn't even survive a stick of dynamite after 4th of July.
Irony, right?
Yeah, it's like, yeah, guys, you probably made them out of the wrong material. But the messaging on them was definitely quite globalist,
Yeah.
absolutely, and quite hated by people that are not globalists and are free thinking individualists. And so I certainly am not sad to see them go. I'm curious as to who managed to do it. And I'm wondering if this will end up being sort of seen in the future in history books as the first battle cry of the anti-globalist movement, as more things associated with globalism end up being destroyed, potentially people as well, or whether this will be seen as, the first act of
terrorism,
in a string of terrorist actions.
Yeah.
You're exactly right. In the United States, it all depends on who writes the history books and who ends up winning the conflict. Everybody's either a terrorist or a freedom fighter, depending on who you ask.
True.
The Nazis in Ukraine were and still are being portrayed by the United States as the liberators of Ukraine from Russian rule. Not so much by the people of Ukraine, who are currently welcoming the Russians who are liberating them from the Nazis, and the last 8 years of basically their country being used as a slush fund for Western politicians, as the black web's operating headquarters, as the place that was simply being used without having any real impact on what the people of Ukraine wanted. The country's resources were utilized and sold to the West. And meanwhile, complete corruption in its political and banking systems ensured that all politicians from all parties had a safe haven to do these black deals. And they're still doing them. I mean, when Biden sends $50 billion to Ukraine, what does that mean? Well, first of all, it means that most of that is sent in equipment and items, not in cash. And so that is a payout to the corporations that manufacture that stuff. It is payment to the industrial military companies out there, the complex, right? Industrial military complex, so that stale revenue, since we haven't been in a war with the U.S. Since we shut down Afghanistan, Biden needed to sacrifice at the altar of the industrial military complex, and that sacrifice was, don't worry, we're not using shit up in Afghanistan, but we'll do two things. One is we'll leave all our gear in Afghanistan, so you'll have to remanufacture it, and the U.S. government will buy all replacement.
Well, and so your enemies could use it against you.
Well, but that part didn't matter. What matters is that
churn.
We need to churn. That's exactly right. We need to churn the military production capabilities. And now sending stuff to Ukraine is doing the exact same thing. And what's happening to the gear that's showing up is either it's getting blown up by Russian rockets, or it's instantly being brought right out of the country, sold on the black market, and available for purchase to anybody else who wants it. And I've seen tons of ammo already coming, like U.S. manufactured ammo being sold out of Ukraine. I have literally advertisements in my inbox for that stuff. It's available. It's not being utilized in Ukraine. It is coming into the country, and somebody is making money off of it.
Yeah, it's a scam.
It's a total scam. And whatever is going as direct cash payments to rebuild the infrastructure is the exact same Ponzi scheme. It's leaving the U.S. Treasury. It's going to Ukraine, where a slice is shaved off for processing fees. And then the remainder is being sent back to the politicians that authorized the transfers as payments, for this is a service Ukraine's providing. They're providing a money laundering service.
Let us hold your gold, bro.
Yeah, well, Poland's happy to do that.
As they should be. Those evil Poland's people
Poland's people. Well, the Polish, I think ultimately, and I literally said this from day one, and I said this before I started banning any Polish people from my account, is you have nothing to worry about because Poland will get Western Ukraine. That was always part of the deal. But the way they're acting, they might be screwing themselves out of getting Western Ukraine.
Gold-filled pierogies for all.
And with that,
we'll be back next week on Friday with another Unrelenting.